Hi guys and girls, it's so funny. I've tried to record this video now. This is the third time, and every time I've recorded it, I've got to the end, it's just taken a photo of myself. So that's kind of embarrassing. And I'm like, what's going on with this? I so want to share this message with you. So it's all about how do we manage our emotions when we're emotionally flooding, yeah. And it kind of happened this week for us earlier on in the week, and it was to do with family. And when it's family, they're so very dear to us, yeah. And someone was emotionally flooding, and just what happens and there's no judgment in it, right? And I took the time to unpack it. But what happens when you emotionally flood, and it's happened to me before, I'll share that with you, yeah, is that we allow things to build up and it becomes like a volcano, right? And at some point that volcano is going to erupt, and when it erupts, it basically projects lava onto anybody else that's in the radius around them, yeah, and we all get covered in lava, and we go, I'm not sure what quite happened then, but I just feel like I've just been singed with a bit of lava that I wasn't expecting, and it can take you by surprise. But what happens is, it generally, when that volcano goes off, it stresses everyone else around the volcano. And then everyone has to deal with their feelings, yeah. And it was external. The reasons for it were external to me, but it still impacts everyone around that gets covered by lava. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you today about how do we manage situations where we're emotionally flooding, and how do we bring ourselves down from that place so that we can respond to situations versus reacting, yeah. And I'll share something super personal with you, and not many people know this about me, is when I was growing up, probably from the ages of about 18 through to about 23, I was incredibly shy, right? Hard to believe now, right? Because I can't stop talking, but incredibly shy. And I know even from, my shyness, I kind of recognized from about the ages of 11 up that I was shy in social situations. For me, it triggered off in big groups, particularly parties, places where I didn't really know many people. I would be incredibly shy. I could literally not get a conversation out of my mouth. I'd be standing next to people completely dumbfounded inside, going, I really want to say something, make a conversation, but I just can't bring myself to, yeah. And there would be situations, and it usually played out with partners, where if there was something going on that I couldn't really cope with, whether it was their behavior or whatever, I would emotionally flood. And instead of dealing with it, I would go into flight and fright response. Fight and flight, hard to say those words together. I would run, yeah, I would be gone. I'd just grab my bag and go, and they'd be going, I'm not quite sure what happened then. Wasn't great on relationships, that kind of behaviour. And I really had to unpack it. And I have to say to you, when I hit sort of 26 and started having my babies, that really brought me out of myself, and that confidence and social confidence and all that kind of thing completely changed. Because when you have babies, you've got to interact with a whole lot of people, right? And I can gratefully say that I changed from being an introvert to an extrovert. And I know when they do those funny things where they analyse all your personality types, right? They said, you're actually an introvert, but you've worked out really well how to be an extrovert. And I went, yeah, that's me all over. So gratefully it's changed. But I know through, I used to emotionally flood, not all the time. It would be in significant things where there would be something going on that was triggering me, but I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, yeah. And I would, emotionally flooding, what happens is you can just feel the feelings rising, and you can be feeling panicky. You can feeling like you're not coping, that you want to express something, you don't know how to do it, yeah. And what happens is you either shut down completely or you explode, yeah, in some way that's not great. Instead of being able to express yourself in a great way. And that's what happens with emotionally flooding. So how can you help yourself in those situations? And it can be triggered by all sorts of things, yeah. Often what happens is you're modeling something from ways of behavior that you've witnessed and modeled. It can be very karmic, yeah. To you, it can be your normal, or it can be a way that you've learned to react, not respond, because in that moment you're reacting, not responding, yeah. And for me, I can look back at it, and there's been certainly situations in our family dynamics where my dad, who I love to bits, right, he was always very quiet. So in terms of him expressing his emotions, he found it really difficult. So in situations where he was under stress, instead of being able to put boundaries in place with people or to express himself, he would do the flight and fight thing, right? And he would leave and go into his shed and stay in there for quite some time, do his man stuff, his man cave, yeah, which is totally fine. He knew within himself that he wasn't coping with the situation, and he had to go and get some airtime for himself. For us, it meant that we learned and witnessed and modelled that when you're under those kind of situations, what happens is you run. Yeah, you run away from it rather than deal with it. And that's just a little bit of background around me. And I think, we can all have those situations where things can pile. What happens in emotionally flooding is often you're having a situation either where things are building up on top of you, stresses that you're not really coping well with or don't know how to manage, or they're just piling up on you, right? And you've reached your point where your volcano is going to go off. Or it can be something in that moment that triggers, and suddenly you have all these things going off within you, emotions, and you're not sure how to deal with them. And you can feel overwhelmed. So what are some key tips to do? Okay, firstly, I'm leaning on the wall, right? Wherever you are, even if you're sitting, is you plant those feet on the ground and you anchor yourself to Mother Earth, right? And I had this go off for me a couple of years ago when I was at a social function with someone, and they weren't behaving really well, the person I'd gone with. And I was with a whole lot of people. I knew quite a few of them, but a lot of them I didn't. And I was actually emotionally flooding. I'm thinking, I've had enough of this and I just want to run. Yeah, I was literally emotionally flooding. And one of the things to recognize is great to be consciously aware when you're emotionally flooding and learn to stop in that moment and hold yourself, right? You hold yourself, get your feet on Mother Earth, feel that connection to the ground and hold yourself there and go, this feeling's going to pass. This moment is going to pass. It may take 5 minutes. It may take 10 minutes, right? But you hold yourself there. You breathe and bring yourself down into calmness, yeah? And then go back and deal with the situation or leave it for a while, yeah? Or just reconnect with the people that are around you. What else can you do? It's very important to recognize what's coming up for you. So if you're in that instance and you're emotionally flooding, you know that you're going to lose control, is you can also just go, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. I just need to take a moment. And even if you're in a discussion, I'm just going to take a moment for myself and I'll come back when I'm feeling a bit calmer. Yeah. Remove yourself from the situation versus being a volcano. Yeah. Take 5 or 10 minutes, however long it takes you to calm down and bring yourself back into a state of calmness with your emotions. Allow them to drain back down to Mother Earth out of your feet. Yeah. Versus going up to volcano. Have a glass of water. Have a coffee, just sit in the garden, just take some time for yourself, whatever it is you need to do. Then come back to the situation and either let it be and say, I'm sorry, but I can't talk about this right now. I do want to discuss it, but when I'm feeling calmer, yeah. Or you may be in a state where you're better able to communicate your feelings better, because often in those instances when you're overwhelmed, you have this feeling of not being able to communicate what you want to say in a great way that somebody's going to be receptive to it or hear it, versus feeling like they're being under attack or having to be defensive, yeah, or just being covered in your lava that you've just spurted out the top, yeah. And also, when you're feeling like things are piling up on top of you, it can happen over a period of time, right? You know it's happening, you can feel it happening, so you've got to be very aware of that and do practices that allow you to regularly release those emotions or to figure out why you're feeling like that. So for me, I had to journal this week. I haven't done it for a while because because it's family, they're so precious to you. You want relationships to be peaceful, beautiful, loving, right? And I just had to unpack it for myself, just my feelings, my reactions, and get some stability and rationality around it. So I journaled, and I find that very useful because basically you're just expressing your emotions on paper. You're not having to say them to anyone. You can also get your clarity about why things are being triggered, yeah, why things are being triggered, and give you some good basis around, well, how do I manage my emotions in that instance, yeah, being covered in lava, and everybody else gets stressed around that person by it, and if it's you doing it, those people around you are going to be stressed by it, yeah. It affects everyone. So the best thing to do in those instances is where you feel yourself emotions building up is to figure out why you're feeling like you're feeling, to unpack your emotions before you just blast them onto other people. Because what happens is when you do that, you push people away. Yeah, they're repelled by negativity, they're drawn to positivity. So you've got to remember that. There's always an outcome. There's always a consequence to that. It's not like people are going to love you any less, but it's a little jarring on everyone, right? But it's also, so journaling's great. Getting and asking those deep questions about yourself, why you're feeling like you are. Is there anything you can do about it? Or you just need to be more gentle on yourself. Do you need to, maintaining your exercise routine, good nutrition, looking after yourself, taking quiet time for self, being gentle on yourself, getting out in nature, those kind of things are always very calming and soothing. You got to think about that. Meditations are amazing. Ideally, you want to be living a very peaceful, balanced, calm life in not only within self, but within your relationships around you. And how do you foster that? Yeah. So I hope this helped today. I really do. I love you heaps. Have an awesome, awesome day. I want to say just if you enjoy the kind of videos that I put out, make sure to follow me on Instagram, Mind, Body, Soul RB, as well as my new Warrior Spirit Activewear one. And I'll put the links down below. And you can also check out my new Warrior Spirit Activewear blog. There's lots of stuff on there, and I will be building it as well in terms of healthy recipes, fitness motivation, health and beauty tips as well. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So go and check it out. All right. Have an awesome, awesome day. Bye.